Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, I'm going to be doing my predictions for Major 3 of the CDL. Super excited to get into this one. You guys know I absolutely love doing predictions. One of my favorite things to do and one of my favorite episodes to make. So as you can see by the screen, we've got the bracket up for Major 3. If you guys are listening on the audio platforms and do want to check out what my bracket is looking like, you can head on over to YouTube and check it out there because we have a little video version to go with this one with the predictions on the screen. If you guys enjoy this one on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow and a review. I'd really appreciate it. All the support goes a long way. And the last video, there was some crazy support. A lot of new commenters saying they enjoyed the podcast, and that kind of stuff keeps me motivated to keep going. And I really appreciated the support on that. So thank you all for commenting, whether you were just a watcher that dropped a like or just enjoyed and consumed the podcast for the first time or your 20th time. I really appreciate you all. Not a whole lot of stuff to talk about from last week's matches. I really wanted to just focus in this one on predictions and just do a full kind of fleshed out predictions episode on this week's matches. A little bit interesting things happened. Like maybe the one thing I could talk about is that tiebreaker match between Florida and LA Thieves. What a weird situation, huh? It's a situation where those two teams, based on whatever it was, map count and record and everything, they tied for seeding, and there's no way for them to break the tie, so they had to play a tiebreaker match, and the winner of the match played against OpTic, who, I mean, I think most people would say are probably the best team in the game right now. If not, they're like one of the teams you definitely don't want to play, especially if you're a team like Thieves, who has just like literally the day before got stomped, or actually the same day got stomped by OpTic 3-0. So like obviously Thieves is not a team that's looking to play OpTic. They want to avoid them at all costs. So maybe they're not interested in winning the match. And also for Florida's sake, granted the last time we saw them on LAN against OpTic at the Pro-Am, they struggled, but at Major 2, Florida actually beat OpTic on LAN, so maybe they have a little more confidence against them since they've actually seen some success this year against them. And Thieves, I believe the last time they beat OpTic was the Kickoff Classic, which we don't really count that too much at this point anymore, especially with how Thieves have looked. But CDL on stream basically promoting throwing a match, saying like keys to victory, like maybe sneak in a couple team kills or something. So kind of wild to see the CDL promoting that. That was a big topic of discussion. Just overall a weird situation. I know people on reverse sweep and like the flank and stuff. Hecz was talking about how like this match should be played and you get to pick who you play, and I actually do kind of agree with that, because especially when like arguably the team that loses gets the advantage on having to play Minnesota instead of OpTic. Granted, Minnesota looks fantastic right now, but we haven't seen them be a great team all year, and OpTic has pretty much wire to wire been arguably the best team or a top 2 team. So just a weird situation, and it looked like neither team was trying too hard. They played like random maps that they don't play. After like the map 1 hardpoint, Thieves looked like happy. They cut to them, they're like smiling, look happy that they lost the map, and Florida looking upset that they won. Like Vivid's like, what? After they won, like he looked upset. Like not a good look for the CDL. The tiebreaker match was done extremely poorly, so that was really the one thing that I wanted to touch on from last week. Also, another little piece of news from that, NYSL beat OpTic, and they looked pretty darn good. They potentially are a favorite coming into this tournament here with how they've looked in recent form, and they really, really need a good tournament because obviously right now with their terrible start to the year and like winning no matches, they're way behind in CDL points, so they've got to catch up in order to make champs. But an interesting matchup they have down here against New York. Before we get into that, if I sound a little different, I'm a little under the weather. I've had a terrible cold. It's kind of odd because it's not really cold season. I'm in Wisconsin, and typically that's like around like the winter time, around Christmas. I always get a bad cold, and now I don't know. I'm all stuffed up. Been sneezing a lot. I've had to blow my nose a ton. Kind of a nasty time for me over here. I've been very sick, so if I sound a little under the weather, sound a little different, you think there's an imposter on the podcast, it's not. Still me, just a little under the weather. So bear with me here. If you hear a little coughing fit or something, I might have to cut that out. All right. We'll jump right into predictions now, and that'll be the rest of the episode. So we're going to start in winners bracket. Obviously, we've got to get those matches done before we get down into losers. Winners round 1. We've got Minnesota versus Thieves. Going to be a tough look for Thieves if they lose this match because of the fact that they basically purposely threw against Florida in order to play against Minnesota. So not the match I expected to be predicting, honestly. Obviously, with going through going through the time in the Major 3 qualifiers and seeing Minnesota look very good, we're not shocked that they're the 1 seed now after like watching all the matches. Like once they got to 3-0, it's not like shocking that they're here. But I mean, if you'd have told me that going into this set of matches in the Major that Minnesota would be in winners bracket, I maybe wouldn't have been shocked since they're making a roster change, but I would have expected them to be more of a like a 5 through 8 seed, not the 1 seed, and they didn't even have to do it through a tiebreaker because they're the only undefeated team in the qualifiers here. So kind of wild. I am going to go with Minnesota in this series. I do think I'm going to say it's a 3-1. I do think this is a 3-0 candidate, though. Granted, the talent on the side of Thieves, I've been saying it all year, the talent on the side of Thieves on paper looks fantastic, and they look like they're a great team, but they just have never really put it together once this year. Like, a little bit in the Major 1 qualifiers, we saw how dominant they were in hardpoint, and like Kyle and I even picked them to win the Major going into that, and then they bottomed out like top 6 or whatever. And overall, like, they've shown flashes at times and looked very good, but like they've just been way too inconsistent, and Minnesota looks to be maybe the hottest team in the game right now and looks so good. And they seem to have a good clutch factor like we've always seen. So I'll be interested to see. We know Havoc does have a history of not great performances on land, specifically at Champs, though. Like, his Gen G team had some good performances, a lot of top 3 finishes in BO4 on land, but specifically at Champs, we know Havoc teams struggle, and this isn't Champs, so I'm excited to see, like, maybe if the ultimate ice factor of attach, and then, like, Havoc maybe struggling a little bit at major tournaments on land, if that can counter each other. But I'm expecting Rocker to win this one, and you guys know, me, Kyle, both of us have always been pretty big Rocker fans, kind of in our area. He's from Michigan. I'm from Wisconsin. He went to school in Wisconsin. Obviously, I've lived in Wisconsin my whole life. So Minnesota, close enough. Really our closest team, especially since Chicago. Huntsman moved away, and OpTic Chicago moved to Texas now. Closest team to us is definitely Minnesota, and like the way that they've grown their fan base, we really have enjoyed it, and I really like them. So kind of a team I like to root for. So I'm really hoping they win this one, although I also, you guys know, love Kenny, so conflict of interest here for me, but I just think Minnesota is flat out the better team right now. I have full faith in them to win the Search and Destroy. I think Thieves maybe take a respawn off them. Maybe the map 1 hardpoint or the control, one of those two. Obviously, they aren't taking map 4 since I'm picking Minnesota in 4, but I see Thieves potentially winning a respawn. I think there's almost no way they win the Search and Destroy. And that's why I have faith in Minnesota to win this, because of how bad LA Thieves Search and Destroy is. I just think that Minnesota is pretty much a lock to win the searches, so like as long as they are able to take 1 respawn, they should win this series. At the very least, like a 3-1, 3-2 fashion, if not even a 3-0. Moving on to the next series, quite an interesting one, because normally I feel like, especially this year with how Toronto have looked most of the year, this would be like a lock it in Faze all day kind of series. But man, Faze have looked a little bit more shaky recently, and Ultra have been really on the upswing. And if there's one thing we know about Ultra, they do seem to at least always play Faze close. Last year, like, Faze could never blow out Ultra. Ultra even beat them in the 1 grand final, and overall just like always was able to play Faze really tight. So it's tough to maybe pick against Ultra here, but you guys know it's always hard for me to pick against Faze. Like, regardless of how they look, like, this team is still Simp, Abezy, Cellium, Arcitys. Like, they're still a disgusting team, and like talent-wise still might be the most talented team ceiling-wise. We know how good these players are. It's always tough to pick against them, but like an Ultra team that's in form is also very tough for me to predict against, because I just really like the way Ultra look when they're playing at their best. Like, their teamwork is so fantastic. I feel like Kleenex has such a high ceiling. I think Cammy's starting to hit his ceiling more. I really want to pick Ultra here, but I know it's going to look like a dumb pick, because like we've got Faze, and like they look so good at all times except recently, and like they've even really going into Major 2, like we didn't know if Faze was like the best, but they still make the grand final. Like, they've been in both finals. So hard to pick against them. I kind of want to go bold and pick Ultra to make a unique bracket like I always like to do, but so hard to pick against Faze. I think I'm going to go the safe route and pick Faze in a 3-2 fashion, but I don't even feel confident in that, because Ultra has looked so much better in Search, and Faze has looked so shaky in Search. I almost feel like if Faze is going to win this, it almost has to be in a 3-1 fashion, because I think they'll do it through 3 respawns. I just don't have faith in them in a Game 5 right now. So I'm almost wanting to switch my pick to Ultra in a 3-2. I can't decide right now. Man, this is bad. I will say I still lean Faze in the respawns, but I definitely lean Ultra in the Search. It's just a matter of, can Ultra take a respawn to push it to a map 5? I do think if Ultra wins the series, it's going to be a 3-2. Man, I just don't know where to put Faze right now. I still think they're such a good team. That drops them down to play Paris, which I think is pretty much a guaranteed win. I still think Faze can make a run. I'm going to drop Ultra down. I'm just going to be safe. I'm going to say Faze have been the better team for a majority of this year, and it's hard to not have faith in those players. I think we're going to see a big bounce back from Simp and Cellium, who had actually one of the roughest series this past weekend he's ever had. He had like a .7 something against Minnesota, which we never see Cellium ever struggle. It seems like he's not even a human because he's so good. But I'm going to pick Faze in a 3. We're going to go 3-1 now that I'm picking them, like I said, because I just don't have faith in them to win a map 5. I think if this series goes to 5, it will be Ultra taking it. So I'll go Faze, but I feel very, very not confident in that pick, if you guys can tell. Down to the bottom side of the winner's bracket, OpTic versus Florida. I feel like it's pretty hard to pick against OpTic here, but Florida does seem, in Modern Warfare, the Mutineers team had OpTic or Huntsman's number in that year, and they always seem to beat them. They beat them at Major too, so it's definitely not like out of the realm of possibility that Florida wins. But this is where I am going to go with my first 3-0. OpTic 3-0'd them at the Pro-Am with General in. I'm assuming Prolute's going to play. We haven't heard like any possible sign that Illy's coming back, really, at least up to this point where I'm recording this. Haven't heard like any possible sign of Illy making a return. So going to assume Prolute's playing, but OpTic really doesn't look like they've lost much of a step with Prolute in. They look great. Florida is so shaky and so inconsistent. It's hard to rely on them. Maybe if they were playing a different team like a Seattle or a Thieves or something, somebody up here that is a little more inconsistent, we could pick them, but very, very hard to do when OpTic looks as good as they do in Florida. Is just so inconsistent. So I'm going to go OpTic with 3-0. All right, now on to, in my opinion, the toughest match. I do feel like Minnesota is a pretty safe pick. I don't feel like Faze is a pretty safe pick, but I do think that this match, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see either team win, but I don't know if it's as much of a toss-up because I do think, like, they're two very good teams that are pretty consistent when they're in their good form. This match I feel like is a pretty safe pick with OpTic, but this match, I feel like it's two teams that I think their ceilings are extremely high, but they aren't nearly as consistent as like an Ultra and a Faze at their peak. I could see Serge, like they can have a random bad day where they just suck. In New York, I think they're a potential team that could win this event. I actually think both these teams are good dark horses to win this event. I like both of them a lot. I'm leaning towards Subliners though. If that does, I don't know if that sounds crazy, but I don't know. I just feel like Subliners are maybe a little bit more of a consistent team. Like I don't see, I don't know. I don't see their structure like having as many mistakes. I feel like Paul X and Kismet, since they've been brought onto the team, have like really brought a lot of structure and consistency along with Krim leading the team, and we know how disgusting Hydra is. At the same time though, Serge this split has looked a lot more consistent. That's the one thing we've been asking of Serge all year. New York has just been like, hey, like switch up your roster because they suck so bad to start the year, but like the one thing we've been asking of Serge all year is like consistency. Like you have these high highs where you look like you could be a top 4 team and like could compete for a championship, and you have these low lows where it's like, is this team going to qualify for champs? They just need to steady out, and so far in this major, in this split, they've steadied out. So in my opinion, this is the toughest match in the first round. I feel like this has a game 5 written all over it. Do I think Iceman's going to clutch up? Do I think the Subliners are going to clutch up? I have a little more faith in New York right now. But I'm going to go 3-2. Like I said, I think this is a really close match. I do think whatever team drops down here makes a deep run to, at minimum, elimination round 3, whether it's Serge or New York. I think they breeze their way into elimination round 3. Same thing, like I said, with that Ultra and Faze match. I think they breeze their way into elimination round 3. But I really think that this is the biggest toss-up match. But I'm going New York 3-2. I could see Seattle winning this, and I do think that whatever team wins this, OpTic potentially with a substitute and Prolute's first time playing like with a big crowd like that, like you never know what could really get to them. I could see whatever team wins this potentially making a little bit of a run. I wouldn't be shocked. We're gonna drop down into elimination round 1, losers bracket. Thieves versus Breach. We saw Thieves actually finally like put a beat down on them. Weird matchup here, though, because Breach, all year they've been a team that's been, like, consistent. They beat the teams that they should beat, and they just, like, can't seem to get over the hump of the top teams. But can we see them beating Thieves here? I don't know. These are two teams that it's hard to have confidence in. Like, Thieves, every time they, like, show you something, they pull it away, and it's like, man, we just, like, can't have faith in them. And Boston's the same way. Every time they show you something, it's like they play a top team and remind you that you just, like, Can't really have faith in them. Whoever loses this, like, you know, you look at some of these other matches and it's like you wouldn't be shocked if like Florida or LAG or London in their current form or Paris bottomed out and lost top 12. But like these are two teams that would be very disappointing because like Thieves haven't been good this year, but like their expectations with that roster are to be making runs to at least the top half of the league and top 6, especially when they start in winners. Same with Breach, with the expectations they've set. They're points wise one of like the top 5 teams in the CDL, and they've consistently made it to like a Sunday and like a top 6, top 4 finish at both majors. Like they're a team that is expected based on the standard they've set to advance. I think I'm leaning Thieves here, but I don't feel great about that because I like Boston on LAN. No, you know what? No, I always pick Thieves and they always screw me over, and like I always pick against Boston. For once, I'm gonna have faith in them. For one time, granted, it screwed me over when I finally had faith in them and picked them to beat Florida, and then they had the whole glide bomb controversy happen. Which I kind of forgot to talk about in the beginning, but yeah, that was wild. The fact that TJ doesn't get his glide bomb back. Don't know if it would have made a huge difference because it's Berlin, but I fully understand why they're upset about it. I would be losing full if I was them too. I think this is a 5-game series though. I picked Breach 3-2. Once again, this comes down to the fact that I do believe that Breach is just flat out the better search and destroy team. So if we're going to a map 5, I definitely give Breach the edge there, and I'm going to pick them 3-2. Although you guys know how much I probably want to pick Thieves there because I don't know. Every time I see that roster on paper, it's just like at some point I think they're going to turn around, but they just haven't to this point. Then the next match seems like it's pretty easy. It's Toronto, and it's going to be a 3-1. I know you guys probably thought I'm picking a 3-0 there, but I really like Donnie on LAN. I think it seems like Jimbo and John maybe step it up slightly on LAN. Gravity also looks to be pretty good. Like at the last major, they looked pretty solid in the one series we saw them, and I don't think that Toronto is like necessarily the most dominant respawn team, so I think I can see a way where I'm going to bet on Paris to be able to take one of the first 2 respawns and win a map, and then Ultra will close them out in 4, but don't think Ultra are in too much danger here. Down into elimination round 1 on the bottom side, Florida versus LAG, kind of a toilet bowl match here. Do we think Florida will step up and make a little bit of a run like they did in the last LAN? Granted, that was on the winner side, or do we think LAG can make another magical losers run? This is a really tough one to predict for me here because, like I said, Florida, we never know what team's going to show up. They're either going to look like they have a chance to win the event, or they're going to look like they don't belong in the CDL. Like, almost no in between. LAG, like, who knows what happened with them? They look so good. Then they struggle with Spart, bringing Gunless. Still haven't looked great. They beat Paris, but that's about it. Tough one to go with here. My heart says LAG, but my head says Florida. I think I'm going to go with Florida. I don't feel too great about it. I'm going to say 3-1. I'm going to say, excuse me. I'm going to say that the Gorillas take probably the Search and Destroy, although both of these teams, I don't like the way that they play Search. I don't have much confidence in either. Florida has looked terrible in Search as of recent, so I guess I'll say LAG is probably going to take the Search. I do like LAG, and I like their veteran experience on LAN, but I don't know. I think whatever team I pick here, I'm picking to lose in the next round anyway, so it doesn't make too much of a difference in my bracket, but I'm going Florida just because their highs seem to be a little higher than LAG right now, but man, these are two teams that do not look good right now. Serge versus Ravens. You guys know how much I love Ravens. Alfie, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's hard to have faith in Ravens right now, as much as I was just like ride or die with them early in the year with how good they've looked. Ever since Gizmo kind of subbed out and, you know, had to leave for personal reasons, they just haven't looked the same. I don't know. The team just isn't clicking. They're like trying new roles. They're kind of seems like in that desperation mode where they're flipping around roles with Zero and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know. Nothing's really working. I think this is Surge. Gonna pick another 3-0 actually. You got to pick them at some point, and I don't know. I just feel like Ravens, they're just struggling right now. I definitely can see a world where they force this to a map 5 and make this close, because like they still have Afro, they still have Nasty, they still have Zero. Like, these are very good players, and Harry is not a slouch player by any means. Like, they have very good players in this London team. They just like haven't made it click. But like, would I be shocked if we see an Afro Nasty dual 1.3, 1.4s and they just like take over and like maybe win this in a map 5? No, I wouldn't be shocked, but got to go with Seattle right now until we see something different from London. All right, we'll pick these next two elimination matches before we go back up into winners. Breach versus Ultra. I think you guys heard what I said, and I believe the loser of those Toronto Faze and then the Serge New York are both going to make runs down here. I think the elimination bracket teams get bounced pretty early, and I think that's the case here. I'm picking Ultra. I'm actually going to pick another 3-0. They're bound to happen. I always pick way too little 3-0s, and it never seems to go well for me. So I'm going to pick Ultra in a 3-0 fashion here over Boston, ending Boston's run, the earliest ascended this year. On the bottom side, I basically already told you guys where I'm going here. I'm going Serge. I think this one's a 3-1, I'll say, because I do think Florida will probably end up playing a Gav and maybe get the better of them, although Serge on Gav is also very good in hardpoint. So tough one to go with, but I do think Serge have potential to make a run in this event and go very deep into the tournament. I think, like I said, those teams like Ultra, Serge, and New York, 3 teams that I'm really eyeing up in this tournament because I don't know, like I feel like everybody is eyeing up Minnesota since they look so good. I think people are obviously eyeing up OpTic since they've basically been the best team in the game wire to wire so far. And I think people are always eyeing up Faze because we know who they are and we know the potential they have to make deep runs in every tournament. I mean, they've been in both finals. I feel like those are the 3 teams that are the hot picks right now, but I don't know. Something tells me that this could be Ultra, Seattle, or New York's tournament. One of those 3 teams, I feel like we're going to see one of them in the finals. I just don't know who I'm going to pick or if I'm going to chicken out and just put Faze and OpTic in there. Going back up to the winner side, though, we got Minnesota and Atlanta in the top. A rematch of the recent match we saw where Minnesota smoked them 3-0. I don't know. I really think both these winners round 2 matchups have game 5s written all over them because I think right now where we're at, these are probably the 4 best teams in the game. I think like it's hard to say Minnesota's up there. I'm just talking in their recent form. I don't know that Minnesota has proven that they like deserve to be like shoe-in top 4 because they've only been good literally in these qualifiers. But like right now, based on how hot they are, I think you probably throw them in there. Obviously, OpTic's up there. I think Faze, you're crazy if you take them out after just like one bad series against Minnesota. And I think like there's a debate if New York is in or if like maybe Seattle's in or maybe Ultra. But like New York have looked really good and they just beat OpTic, who like nobody's been able to beat. So I think these are potentially your top 4 teams, or like you can make an argument they are, and they're all in winners round 2. So this has a couple map 5s I think written all over for me just because of how close I think they are. I'm going to lead Minnesota here, as crazy as that sounds to drop Faze into the losers bracket, but we just saw Minnesota smoke them. I think that's going to give Minnesota some crazy confidence. They also get the advantage of picking the control map. They get the veto advantage. I just think that Minnesota, it's their time to shine, and I'm going to ride with Minnesota because you guys know I like the team, and I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are going to have Faze advancing pretty far, like always, because it's hard to pick against them. So going to go a little different, but that's a tough matchup to predict. As is this one, OpTic versus Subliners. We just saw Subliners beat them 3-1, and they looked very good in that series. I do think OpTic's going to get the revenge here, though. I like the way OpTic looks. I think this is... I'm going to go map 5 again. I do trust OpTic's ice. I still think they're the better search and destroy team over New York, but this is an ultra close matchup again. Like, I could see these matches going either way. Even if this is Serge in here instead of New York, I can see this going either way. And also if this is Ultra in here instead of Faze. Like, I think like those are the 2 matchups, this Ultra Faze and this Serge Subliners are the 2 matchups that I was really questioning in the first round. I was pretty confident in OpTic and Rocker, but like these 2 matchups I was questioning. If I would have picked Ultra to play Rocker and if I would have picked Serge to play OpTic, I still would be questioning. Like, I still think that these could go to a map 5 because, like I was saying, I think between like Serge, Subliners, and Toronto, like you have a decent argument to put any of them as the 4th best team in the game right now. So, interested to see where that goes. All right, moving down to the losers bracket. Excuse me. We've got New York versus Toronto. Man, another tough matchup because these are 2 teams that I said I think are dark horses to make a run. And then we got Faze and Serge. Wow. Kind of interesting how this works because that leaves us with, what are we here? We got these 4 and then the 2 up in the winners bracket. Like, these are really our top teams, like I said. So I like the way this bracket shapes out. It allows, like, maybe not the teams that we truly believe are the top teams to face off right away. Like, I think it really leaves us with a chance for our final 6 to be our actual like top 6 teams right now, which is something that doesn't always happen. It seems like one team always sneaks through. And let me tell you, it never works the way you think it is. One of these random teams that we don't think is very good is bound to sneak through. It always goes that way. But New York versus Toronto. Oh boy, one team that I really think is very good and has a chance to win the event is going to get eliminated right here. I do think both these teams have potential, like I said. Uh, I like New York a little more right now, but I think that Toronto is a safer pick because I feel like they're just always guaranteed to just be a little more steady. I think Toronto is the safe pick, but I think New York has the higher upside. So I'm going to go New York in a 3-1 fashion because I do think, once again, I favor Ultra and Search and Destroy. And whenever I'm going to a map 5, I'm always going to pick the team that I favor in Search, regardless of who I think is a better team. Because I do think that a lot of times in a map 5, the team that maybe you don't think is the better team wins if they're the stronger Search team. It seems kind of obvious, but like a lot of people don't think that way. They just think like, hey, I think this is a close series. This is the better team, so they go map 5. But like in this situation, I feel like New York are the better team because of their ceiling. But like if Toronto are able to pick a respawn off them and force a map 5, like you gotta almost favor Toronto in a Search. So that's why I'm going 4 maps and going New York, just because I feel like the ceiling's higher, and I don't know. I don't feel confident though, because like I said, I feel like Toronto's more steady, and it depends on what New York we get that day. But I'm gonna go with get the good New York. Down to the bottom side of the elimination bracket, Faze versus Serge, another really tough one to predict. It just feels like criminal to like pick against Faze down here and have them bow out top 6 because like they never do that. Like they did it like once when they bowed out like top 8 against when they lost to none other than Seattle last year. And like one of the craziest upsets in the CDL era of the Call of Duty League, and of competitive Call of Duty. But tough one because like I've said, I have big time faith in Surge right now. I also think you're absolutely wild if you knock out Faze this early, which is like potentially what I'm about to do here. Like I think I would call myself a madman for knocking out Faze because like they're probably bound to make another grand finals because it's what they always do. But oh man, I'm going to pick Serge here. I'm going to be really bold. Call me stupid in the comments. Like, if you're calling me stupid, I'm not going to argue with you because I think that, like, if I saw somebody making this pick, I'd say it's absolutely wild. But I think Serge should have beat them at Major 2. It went to a Game 5, Round 11. And I really, truly believe that Serge should have beat them. Matt got sick in the middle of that series. That was, like, that really, really odd series. And he came out and fried, and they still almost won. It went all the way to a round 11. I believe Serge might have been up 5-4 if I'm remembering correctly, and like they kind of blew it. So I don't know. Call me crazy. I'm not going to argue against you, but I feel like this is the one time we can actually be bold with Faze, and people are still going to have them going pretty far. But I'm picking Serge to beat them because I do think Serge, it's going to be one of those weekends where we don't see the inconsistent Serge. We see the good Serge, and that carries them to this elimination round 4. Where they play New York in my 2 Dark Horse teams, rematch of round 1. Oh boy, where do we go with this one? Surge or New York? Kind of a tough matchup to predict because once again, they're 2 teams that I've said it a million times here. They sometimes look horrible, and it's like, wow, why did I have faith in this team? And then sometimes it's like, man, that team could win the next event. I had New York beating them. In winner's side, do I have Surge pull off the upset? I think this is where we gotta trust New York because these are 2 inconsistent teams, but New York is slightly more consistent. So I'm gonna go New York in a 3-1 fashion. A good run from Surge. If this ends up being the elimination round 4, I'll be very excited because these are 2 teams that I really love to watch play. So I'll be very excited if that ends up being the case. Then up here, got the winners final, and that is Minnesota versus OpTic. Man, where'd we go here? I remember way early in the year, Minnesota, I believe, reverse swept OpTic in the qualifiers for Major 1. I don't remember if it was their first or second. I know they lost to, I believe it was London and Minnesota, and they fell to 0-2, and everybody's like, oh my god, what is wrong with OpTic? Like, this team is not it, and like people were freaking out. And then from there on, OpTic ended up running out the next 3 and then ran on, won the Major, and like had a crazy run of one of the best match win streaks we've ever seen in CDL history. So kind of maybe Minnesota propelled OpTic and motivated them. But new roster, obviously Havoc in. Minnesota looked great. I still think it's tough to pick against OpTic, though. Like, as good as Minnesota has looked, we've only seen them do it online. They looked pretty bad at the Pro-Am. Granted, OpTic still probably playing with a sub, but Prolutes looked great. I'm going OpTic here. We're going to go 3-1. I know I picked a lot of 3-1s, but I feel like Search and Destroy in this one, if it goes map 5, is a pretty big toss-up because OpTic all year has been a very good Search and Destroy team. And, Minnesota's stats might not say they're the best Search and Destroy team. They're still pretty high up there, but, like, with how many losses they took, they happened to lose a lot of Search and Destroys in that stretch. So, like, maybe the numbers don't look as good, but like any team with like Attach, Priesta, even Standy and Havoc, like these are good search and destroy players. This is a team that I expect to be very good in search. So like I feel like a map 5 is a toss-up, but I'd still favor OpTic in the respawns, which is why I'm going to pick them in a 3-1 fashion. That puts us down to Rocker versus Subliners in the losers final. Oh boy, do I go Subliners? Do I have faith in them making it all the way back to the grand final? Would be back-to-back grand finals if you're counting the Pro-Am Classic that we just saw happen. Or do I have faith in Minnesota? It feels wild to pick Minnesota and make it all the way to the grand finals, even though they are 5-0 on qualifiers and they look like potentially the best team, the hottest team right now. It's just wild to pick a team to go from like back-to-back top 12s or whatever they had straight to the finals. And for that reason, I think I am going to go with New York. Tough scene for Minnesota if they are in winners final and then don't actually end up making it to the grand final. But I feel like I got to ride with Subliners. I think they're maybe the team with the higher ceiling, but Minnesota's 5-0. They dominated Faze, so it's hard to say that. Like, to me, this is just a toss-up series. I'm just going off the fact that we've seen New York be successful on LAN at the Pro-Am Classic. I have faith in guys like Hydra and Crim. Not that I don't have faith in like Priesta, Attach, Havoc. Like, these guys have been playing forever, but I don't know. I have faith in both these teams. Like, I'm trying to pick a hole in Minnesota, and as I say it, I just realize like it's tough for me to pick a hole because these are two teams that I think are very good, and they have a lot of experience. I mean, I think maybe I trust the sub duo on New York more, but even that, like, I still really like the sub duo on Minnesota. I think maybe I like Crim as more of a traditional main AR over Priesta, but I like the flexibility that Priesta gives them with a little bit of a faster main AR. So like, this is a complete toss-up to me. I'm going to go with Subliners 3-2 because like I just feel like Minnesota, it's tough for me to imagine them making the final after looking so rough with how good they've looked, but not going to be shocked if Minnesota makes it. I know it goes against everything I've said with picking them 3-2, but it's such a close series that I had, like, out of respect for Minnesota, I feel like I have to put them in a map 5. But man, I don't have a lot of faith in Subliners beating Minnesota in map 5. I just like for some reason feel like a team like Subliner, Serge, or Ultra. One of those three is making the finals against OpTic in this event. So that's why I'm going with Subliners and hoping it's not Serge or Ultra. I just feel like with the way Vanguard is, how random it is, how we've seen like a different team, like it was OpTic versus Faze and then LAG versus Faze. We haven't seen any repeat teams. I feel like we're going to see like either OpTic or Faze or Minnesota, one of those top three in the final against either Serge, Subliners, or Ultra. Like we're going to have some weird team in the final like we have all year because, hey, that's Vanguard, man. All right, that puts us with Crim versus Scump, rematch of what we just saw in New York. Beat OpTic. Obviously, I had OpTic taking out New York in winners round 2. And you know what? I don't think it's going to be any different. I think I'm going to have OpTic winning this one. We're going to go with my classic Grand Finals 5-3 prediction. I don't think maybe Subliners are going to force a map 9. If they do, I'd still lean towards OpTic because, I like I said, better search and destroy team, in my opinion, is OpTic. So I lean them. I think the reason I really like OpTic in the series is mainly the control, and that's been the case for OpTic in almost any series. That's why it's so hard to pick against them, because if they're able to take one of the first 2 maps, control is almost like an auto win for OpTic in this game, and it has been all year. So it's almost like if OpTic is able to just take one of the first 2 maps, they're probably going to have a 2-1 lead and have 2 chances to close out a series, which obviously if you're up 2-1 and you have 2 chances to close out, the odds of you winning are higher than if the other team has 2 chances to close out. You know, quick maths there. But I don't know. I just like you're gonna have to play 2 controls in a series like this. I feel like OpTic wins both controls, and that spots them a 2 map lead. I also like them in the search and destroys. I think the searches are more close than the controls, so like maybe they split searches or something. I like them in hardpoints. I feel like they split. I really think the control is the difference for me. I feel like they can split search and destroys and split hardpoints, which I feel like gives New York around 3 maps. But I like the OpTic to also take like 1 or 2 of those hardpoints, depending how many they play, 1 or 2 of those searches, depending on how many they play. And then I like OpTic to take both controls. So I feel like splitting maps 3-3 for the other maps, and then OpTic taking the 2 controls gives them a 5-3 win. It's just so hard to pick against them in control, like I said. Overall, in terms of predictions, I know obviously in Major 2 I picked OpTic. to win. That didn't go well, but like, hey, if you were one of the random people that picked LAG, like, you're a savant. I don't know how you picked LAG to win, but you did. And then in Major 1, Kyle and I picked Thieves. Sounds crazy to say now, but like back in the day, like Hecz picked them. Like, it was a pretty common pick. A lot of people were actually picking Thieves because of how good they looked in Hardpoint. Then people thought, you know, that'd carry to land. As long as they dominate Hardpoint, they just have to win a couple controls or searches, and they'll be on their way to winning the event. So, granted, those brackets didn't turn out well. This is a bracket that I don't feel great about. Like, I feel pretty confident, like, going back and looking at, like, I think Ultra, like Serge, Faze, Subliners, OpTic, Rocker, like, I think those teams are going to be the teams in some form that we see in, like, elimination round 3 and further. You know, one of these random, like, LAG, Ravens, Gorillas, Breach, Thieves, like, one of them is bound to make a run because it's never the actual top 6 that makes it to top 6. But in terms of, like, where this bracket is, I feel completely lost because, like, last event when I picked, in Major 2 when I picked OpTic to win, I was pretty confident in the pick because of how good OpTic had looked leading up to that. But, like, OpTic looked good, but so did Minnesota, so does Subliners, so does Serge. Faze doesn't look great, but they're still Faze. Like, this is, in my opinion, maybe the most toss-up event we've had all year. So really looking forward to it. But that's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, like I said, drop a follow on there. We'd really appreciate it. Comment down below your guys' thoughts. Where do you think this tournament's going to land? Who's going to win it? Do you have like a potential dark horse team? Like I said, I named those 3 a few times. The New Yorks, the Subliners, the Ultra. They're not necessarily dark horses. Maybe if I had to name a team from losers bracket that was starting in there to make a run, I don't think there's any teams in losers round 1 I could see winning the event. But I'd probably place like Boston as my dark horse team since they've basically been like a top 6 team at both majors. Like, I really expect them to, you know, at least have a chance to make a run here. But comment down below maybe who your dark horse team is, who you have winning the event, and like maybe some bold predictions you have. I'd love to read them, love to provide some feedback if I think you're crazy or not. But I really appreciate the support on this one. Like I said, if you guys enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy watching the major. I know I'm looking forward to it. So I'll talk to you guys later, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, everyone.